everybody. Welcome back. We're here with the author of Bagman, Rachel Maddow. Well, that sort of grifting for his post-presidential career is just another form of corruption. There's some debate going on as to whether there should be investigations into the president of the administration after he leaves office, whether that's the best thing for the country. Whether or not that there are indictments of anyone in the administration or the president himself or his children. Wouldn't it be nice just to know, though? Wouldn't it be nice? What are the loose ends you'd most like to know about?
Oh, like Trump mysteries that never got run down?
Yes.
Oh, there are so many.
I mean, the taxes, of course, is one good one.
Yeah.
You've been chasing that dragon for a while.
Yes. I want to know, there's a lot of financial things about the president that I would like to know, including, why his golf courses make financial sense when all they do is lose money, but he was able to pay for them in cash and nobody knows where he got the cash from to pay for them. Like, there's basic stuff like that in terms of what his cash flow
Who's he owe $415 million to?
Exactly. But there's also this smaller stuff. I mean, the president is individual one in the Southern District of New York, where his lawyer, Michael Cohen, actually did prison time for the campaign finance violations around that whole hush money payment thing. Those prosecutors described the president as having been the person who directed the commission of those felonies and who benefited from them. I mean,
unindicted co-conspirator.
Exactly, literally an unindicted co-conspirator. And so it is, I'm super interested in the question as to whether or not those prosecutors, if they want to, whether they will be allowed independently to pursue the person who directed the commission of those felonies, since they already put somebody else in prison for it. But there's all these other mysteries. Why did the Trump campaign chairman share internal polling data with a Russian intelligence officer? I don't know.
Could be for any number of reasons.
Who among us hasn't?
Yeah, it's a great pickup line. Speaking of corruption, I want to get to your new book, Bagman: The Wild Crimes, Audacious Cover-Up, and Spectacular Downfall of a Brazen Crook in the White House. And it's not who you think, ladies and gentlemen. Tell the people who this is about.
This is about Richard Nixon's vice president, Spiro Agnew, who is the only vice president to have ever been run out of office on a rail. And he literally had to resign his office minutes before he pled nolo contendere, pled no contest to a charge in a courtroom. And the whole scheme by which he avoided prison time and was allowed to resign for his crimes rather than face prison time, and that was to keep him from becoming president. It's a sort of untold story because it was so overshadowed by Watergate, but I am completely obsessed with this story, and I think it has lots of sort of trailing ends that bring us through to today.
And his story reminds you that the term bagman literally comes from bags of money.
Yes.
Because I actually know stories from people who did construction in Baltimore in the 1960s and 50s, and going in to get your permitting, you had to get past Spiro Agnew. And he would literally say, "We got a few problems with your plan," and he would leave the office, open his drawers, and walk out. He'd come back in, and he would see if there was no cash in the drawer. They'd say, "We still have a few problems with your permit." It was absolutely bald. Now, there's a legacy of Spiro Agnew's corruption and his relationship with Richard Nixon that lasts to this day and has actually influenced the last 4 years in the investigations of this president. And it's fascinating. Explain to the people why he actually kind of puts our own justice system in a bind when it comes to the president.
So Agnew is the last guy before Trump where where there's line prosecutors who are investigating crime. They identify the perp, the guy is in the White House, and they have to figure out what to do about it. And in Agnew's case, they had to decide at the Justice Department whether or not he could be indicted. And his lawyers argued that he couldn't be indicted, he could only be impeached. Agnew actually went to the Speaker of the House at the time and asked to please be impeached. Please investigate me and impeach me. He thought that would be a great idea. He thought that would put off the prospect of him being indicted. But Nixon, who has a completely other scandal, Watergate is a totally separate thing for which he thinks he's going to lose office. He doesn't want the sort of wheels of impeachment to start around Agnew because he thinks that then they'll turn and impeach him. And so he basically advises the Justice Department, hey, I want you to look into this. And what I want you to find is that Agnew definitely can be indicted, so he doesn't get impeached, but I can't be indicted at all. Could you decide that, please? And because of that sort of difference of interest between Nixon and Agnew, and because of the fact that they hated each other and we were both trying to throw each other under the bus at that time, and they were both felons, we ended up with this Justice Department policy that says that presidents can't be indicted.
And that's just a memo from Mitchell's office, right? From the Attorney General at the time.
From the Office of Legal Counsel at the time that the Agnew thing is getting forced into the courts. And it's basically a favor to Nixon, and it's a mess, and there's no sign at all, and we talked to people involved with that. There's no indication that they meant that to be a controlling get-out-of-jail-free card for every president who came after. But it turned into one, and that's what Donald Trump has been benefiting from. That's why Mueller didn't lay out any crimes that Trump might have committed. That's why he was individual one and an unindicted co-conspirator instead of indicted in the hush money thing. I mean, Trump owes the fact that he is not in prison and or under indictment to Spiro Agnew and the mess that was made of his case.
Well, the book is Bagman. It's available now. She is Rachel Maddow. We'll be right back with rapper Megan Thee Stallion. Rachel, thanks so much for being here.